I'm joined by Gray Television's White House correspondent John Decker. And John, let's begin. The pandemic has claimed 400,000 lives. It's erased 10 million jobs. The country's divided. I could go on, but a daunting task will be for President Joe Biden to claim victory 100 days from now. Your impressions?
Well, I think that's right. He does have a daunting challenge in front of him with all of what you just talked about. We are dealing with a pandemic that is on a daily basis. The average is 4,000 additional American lives, our fellow American lives. And we just got the news yesterday that 900,000 of our fellow Americans have filed for unemployment. So whether you're talking about the pandemic, the health crisis, or the economy, President Biden has a very difficult challenge in front of him. And so in his early days in office, he signed a number of executive orders that provide a short-term fix for some of these problems. But the big fix is what he sees in this COVID relief bill, $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that will work its way through Congress. Obviously, with Democrats controlling the House of Representatives, that won't be the problem. The real problem, though, will be in the Senate, and whether or not the Biden administration can pick up some Republican support for this COVID relief plan.
All right, you mentioned it. It's a very narrow control for the Democrats, but how will that all impact his plans?
Well, it's narrow, and in terms of moving this process forward, you need to pick up some Republican support for the way the plan is right now. And that means getting to 60 votes in the Senate. As you know, as everybody in your audience knows, it's a 50-50 Senate. It's a divided Senate right now. So you'd be looking for support from some of the moderate Republicans. But interestingly enough, over the course of the past 24 hours, moderates like Susan Collins and Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski, they've indicated that they view this plan as too much spending after the COVID relief bill that was passed by Congress in late December. So I don't think that President Biden is going to get his wish with this amount of money, $1.9 trillion. If there is a COVID relief bill that is passed by Congress, it's going to be a lower figure, a lower dollar amount.
John, we jumped into this interview quickly, but you've covered the White House for 25 years. Wednesday was your 7th inauguration, I believe. What does President Biden have going for him that should give Americans hope?
Well, what he has going for him is the thing that he touted when he ran for president, and that is his experience, and his experience in particular with his former colleagues in the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell, the leader for Republicans, has known Joe Biden. They've known each other for over 3 decades, and that counts for a lot. It counts for a lot in any business that we're talking about, but certainly in the business of politics, just that comfort level of knowing who your colleague is, your opponent sometimes is on the other side. That will be something that Joe Biden will look to. And, you know, unlike President Trump, who came to Washington, D.C. as someone who never was involved in politics, Joe Biden has spent his entire life with politics. He can pick up the phone, he can talk to his former colleagues on the left and on the right and try to reach out to them to try to find some sort of compromise.
Conversely, what should we worry about?
Well, I think that if you listen to Republicans, they are concerned about the amount of spending that will take place in a Biden administration, in an administration in which this White House has Democrats in control of the House and Democrats in control of the Senate. And with Democrats controlling each of those bodies, you can certainly move forward with your federal judge choices that you may put forward in the same vein that President Trump was able to do during his first 2 years in office, when he too had Republicans in control of both the House and the Senate.
Everyone wants vaccine. The supplies aren't there right now. Do you expect it to be slow going, or does the Biden administration have what it takes to ramp it up?
I believe it will be ramped up, and that's just a reflection on the focus that the Biden administration has put on this particular issue. You, me, everyone who is not elderly or falls in the category of someone who is perhaps in one of those categories that needs to get that COVID vaccine right away, wants to know, when can we receive this vaccine? When can we, for instance, go to our pharmacy and book an appointment and get a vaccine? That will be the challenge of the Biden administration, but I am confident, based upon some of the individuals that have been put in charge of this project, that they can meet this challenge, and that 100 million vaccine in 100-day goal that's been set by President Biden, I think will be met. I actually have confidence in that.
You mentioned this earlier. We learned in the past that while one side says the challenges are big, the other might say the price tag is too big. President Biden's speech on Wednesday talked about unity. Again, with your extensive experience of covering what goes on in the nation's capital, how much cooperation do you think there's going to be?
Well, typically in the early days of an administration, there is this so-called honeymoon period, and the message that, as you mentioned, that President Biden had in his inaugural address was one of unity, trying to reach out, trying to find that middle ground, and perhaps that will take place. I think now's the time to do it. Now's the time to take advantage of whatever goodwill may exist in the Republican ranks, and even whatever goodwill may exist right now in the far left of the Democratic Party, the progressives of the party. You're talking about the far right and the far left that need to come together to move efforts forward in terms of legislation to confront this major health crisis that we're all confronting all across the country, no matter where you live, and that's the COVID-19 crisis. That's an area I think in which you can find some middle ground.
John, in the few days since the Trump administration ended and the Biden administration began, have you noticed a change in D.C.?
Well, visually, yes. What I mean by that is there's less security that's on the streets of the nation's capital, like there was in the time period leading up to the inauguration. So that means you can get around the nation's streets without having to deal with all the road closures. Aside from that, I do sense that there is a different feel right now. Certainly among my journalist colleagues that follow the White House, when President Trump, every day when he was in office, during his 4 years in office, we had to essentially have our phones by our side or our computers on practically 24 hours a day because of all the tweets the president would put out. That's not something that I expect will be the case with President Biden. Not to say that he won't use Twitter, but it is to say that there will be more predictability during the course of the next 4 years in a Biden-Harris administration.
John, welcome to Gray TV as the senior national editor and a White House correspondent. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
I look forward to talking to you as well. Have a great evening and have a great weekend, too.
Thank you.